different plants, different voices, and different ways of having conversations. It's time to get personal with plant medicine. Welcome to Getting Personal with Plant Medicine. I'm your host, Diana.
And I'm your co-host, JR.
It's been a minute. I'm glad that you're back.
And I'm back, and I got a haircut if you're watching this.
And a cold. So
and
if you're hearing this, he sounds a little rough today, but better than you have been.
Yeah.
So
it could give me that sultry sound like Phoebe from Friends.
Oh. That is the benefit.
That is, yeah.
So today we're doing a short but sweet video. Mm-hmm. It's part of our new series that we're doing, or I should say something new we're doing with this new season 4, is we will be releasing smaller, shorter episodes that are just kind of like a highlight reel, a few tidbits about a plant medicine that we're experimenting
little
with.
Seedling episodes, if you will.
That's what we're calling it, right? Yeah. I could have just led with that, but I let you come in with the save as usual. So this episode is about stacking. And if you don't know what stacking is, you are not alone, because we have used psilocybin for years, really, and I didn't even know that stacking was a thing until fairly recently. And because of that, I did change, we both changed the way that we microdose. So stacking, there are two very popular forms of stacking protocols right now, or that are...
Well, just protocols, period, because the one isn't actually stacking. The Phenomen isn't stacking. It's just a schedule.
Oh, okay.
It's a scheduling routine.
Okay, so...
But there are multiple different ways there are multiple things that you can stack. There's different functions that you can kind of zero in on for your stacking, which determines what you're stacking with.
And stacking is not specific to psilocybin or psychedelics. You can stack pretty much any type of plant medicine.
Mm-hmm. Much like microdosing. It's just a way to take it.
Right, and let's talk about microdosing really quickly.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, we'll just say it's just the act of taking a very small dose of medication. And when it's used with psilocybin, it will basically keep you from feeling the psychedelic effects.
Mm-hmm. So you can get the therapeutic effects without the psychedelic effects behind it. So you're treating it specifically as almost like a medicine.
Almost. Or exactly
like.
All right, so like you pointed out, thank you for that. Mm-hmm. There are two protocols, two schedules, I should say, that are pretty popular that people use with psilocybin and microdosing. Mm-hmm. But today we're focusing on the Stamets method. Paul Stamets, and he is a very famous mycologist. Is that what the word is I'm looking for? So anyway, the Stamets Stack involves taking... The Stamets Stack is different from the Phenomen because it's different with the schedule, and it's different with what all you're consuming, right? So
the PhenomenSys Protocol is essentially every 3 days you're taking one dose of 0.1 grams of psilocybin. So on the first day, you take 0.1 grams of psilocybin with the belief that you're getting the full effect of it the first day. The second day, you're getting basically 50% of that effect. And then the third day, you're not getting any effect whatsoever. It's a day to rebuild your tolerance level so that your tolerance doesn't go sky high. So every 3 days, you're doing one dose. The difficulty with that is because there's 7 days in a week, you really have to make sure you're scheduling it out and doing it every 3 days, because it's very easy to miss a day or do a day early because it's not hitting on a regimented day. Where the big thing with with this method, the Stamets method, is you're doing 4 days on and then 3 days off. So you're always doing it on the same exact day every week. That belief is that you're building it up in your system for those 4 days, and then you're allowing yourself those 3 days for a tolerance break, including also the stacking on top of that as well.
Right. So like you said, it's 4 days on, 3 days off. And there are some there are some tips that we're going to
Yes.
include here. But before we get to that, let's talk about what the Stamets stacking method is. It is using lion's mane and niacin at the same time as you take your psilocybin. Now, the niacin dose, when you take it over 25 to 50 milligrams, you can experience a niacin flush, which is like a tingling sensation. But some people are really sensitive to it and they can have it for longer than that. So it's recommended to use a no flush variety of niacin.
If you have to, you actually want to use the flushing because that actually makes it effective. So basically what's happening...
I thought like if you have a reaction to it, though, you shouldn't use that.
No. If you're having a reaction to it, it's just once your body builds up to the niacin, it will actually start to... that feeling will start to dissipate after a while once your body gets accustomed to it. The only time you really don't want to take niacin is if you have things like stomach ulcers, low blood pressure, things like that, because it can exacerbate those issues. But you always, if you're taking the niacin, you want that flushing feeling, because what the niacin is actually doing is it's actually carrying it throughout your body, taking it where it needs to be. Think of when you first start taking multivitamins, and you take the multivitamin, and in the first week, your pee is like a strange color because you're basically just peeing out all the excess stuff that your body doesn't really need. So what the niacin is doing is to kind of keep that flushing from happening is it's taking the psilocybin and the lion's mane, and it's carrying throughout your body. And the flushing is actually what's allowing that to happen. So you want to allow that flushing method to occur so that you can have that transportation of and the benefit of both.
Well, okay then. Okay, so like you said, though, some people are more than hypersensitive to niacin.
And you don't have to take the niacin. It's not detrimental. It's not.
You can take a lower dose of it as well.
And you can take a lower dose. It's not necessarily fully beneficial. So essentially the stacking method is the belief that it's kind of like the entourage effect that you hear of, where
where do we hear of that?
Right?
Cannabis?
In cannabis. It's the whole sum of something being more beneficial than the singular part. It's like with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. They all had their individual dinosaurs.
Did not have this on the bingo card.
And their dinosaurs are fine. They do certain things, but when they really need to take down the bad guy, they need to morph into the Megazord. So the stacking method is essentially like the Megazord. So you have things like psilocybin, which is really fantastic for more mental and behavioral function, anxiety relief, depression relief. It's why you get a lot of people when they take large doses of psilocybin, it's considered like a reset. They kind of flush a lot of that toxic energy out of them. So when you're microdosing psilocybin, it's that same basic effect, except you're doing it on a regular basis so that anxiety and depression doesn't build up, so that you don't need to have it flushed out. But it's not really going to do a whole lot on a cognitive aspect, especially like a brain fog. That's where you're really coming into play with the lion's mane. So it's the belief that those two together, forming together, is really going to give you a very high functioning brain sensation, for a better word. So with those two together, that's really the hit of it. Now with the niacin, like I said, that's like the worker bee inside of you, which is because it's vitamin B3, so it's kind of like a fun play on words. So a little bee going buzz, 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 kind of moving it all throughout your body. Now, if you don't take the niacin, you're still going to get the effects of the lion's mane and the psilocybin. It's not like it's null and void. You just might not get as strong of a sensation as you would. So that's why the niacin is really there. So it's not really giving you an effect on a cognitive or mental or behavioral aspect. It's more there to kind of carry it throughout your body so that you don't lose any of it.
That is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little note about the lion's mane. Stamets calls lion's mane the intelligence mushrooms, and he believes consuming lion's mane over a period of time helps with cognitive functions, and he includes it in his stack because he believes it reinforces, as you said, psilocybin's ability to occasion neurogenesis. But all that being said, one of the tips that is out there, but one of the tips that is given by experts is they recommend microdosing for 4 to 6 weeks with just the psilocybin. So that helps you understand how it's helping you, the psilocybin, before you add anything else to the mix.
And it gives you a baseline too, so that you can see, how it's being increased, or if you're not getting an effect of the lion's mane at all. Especially because the lion's mane, with psilocybin, you need to take tolerance breaks. And you can take too much of it, where that's not the case with lion's mane. You can take more than is recommended for your original dose, but you're not really going to know if you need to kind of pump up those levels or not if you don't have the baseline understanding of how you're feeling without the lion's mane and just the psilocybin. Because if you're taking both and you think like, oh, I just feel great, you still might not be feeling the lion's mane. You just might be feeling great because of the psilocybin. So getting a good understanding of that baseline of where you are for 4 to 6 weeks, still holding on to the method of 4 days on, 3 days off, because you still want to take those tolerance breaks so that you don't get an abundant tolerance towards psilocybin. That gives you that baseline so that when you start taking the lion's mane, you can then also measure that out to where you need to be so that you actually start getting the benefit of that as well.
All right. Well, it is recommended, though, to use lion's mane consistently, even when you aren't microdosing, which can be a little bit confusing.
Yeah, so if you're doing like 4 days psilocybin, 3 days off, you're still doing 7 days of lion's mane because you're not going to build up that tolerance like you would with psilocybin.
Yeah, lion's mane is like one of those things I feel like you can just have as much as you want all day long because I don't know what the bad effects would be.
It's like upset stomachs for some people. It's not really a bad effect for everybody. It's like some people.
But it's not going to make you loopy.
No,
if anything, it'll just make you smarter.
Yeah, it'll be like that one show where you take it and you can solve all the crimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you used it a lot because after COVID, there was a lot of brain fog issues and stuff like that, and you found that it really kind of helped. Kind of pull you.
It still helps because I still have brain fog.
Yeah.
You can't tell. Which is why you're here. You're like my brain helper. Anyway, no, but lion's mane is a game changer for sure. And it is great to take every single day. So it is really important to start low and go slow. And always check with your doctor because, like we mentioned before, niacin in particular is not recommended for people with liver diseases, ulcers, like you said, gout, alcoholism, very low blood pressure, and decreased kidney function. Also, people with diabetes should not take niacin. So, that all being said, psilocybin and lion's mane can still be safe for those conditions.
Yes.
This is specific to niacin, but still.
You should always still make sure that you're on this journey with somebody. That you're communicating with somebody that has a higher knowledge than yourself. And not us, because we don't have like a superb wealth of knowledge ourselves. So don't listen to us and be like, we're going to do exactly like they say. So whether it be like a doctor or someone who has done extensive studying and research into these things, because there can always be side effects alongside other medications, or other ailments that you should also be aware of. And that's concerning anything that you're doing with plant medicine. So not to scare you off of this stacking method or these things, because lion's mane is amazing, psilocybin is amazing, it's done great for us. But you also want to make sure that you're going into it fully aware and cognizant of the effects, and deliberately of what you're looking to get out of it. It's not really something that you just kind of pick up one day and start playing around with and just say, let me go loosey-goosey with this without real intention of what you're trying to get out of it. And with that, it's really important that you do proper research. If you're not going to talk about it with your doctor, that at least you do a substantial amount of research, and talk with people before you start just diving into it for funsies.
For funsies?
For funsies.
Well, to that note, there is a lot out there. There's a lot of information. And as we mentioned, Paul Stamets, did I say famed mycologist? Did I say mycologist?
You did, yeah. Okay. And you said famed. You said both the words.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah. As you famously do.
Maybe someday he'll be a guest on this show. But in the meantime, certainly look him up because there is so much information, and he is a wealth of knowledge. There are a lot of sources out there that are really great, and we will link to those, or at least the ones that we know of, in our show notes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, until next time, thank you very much for listening.
Have a good day.
Your Highness Media. Subscribe to our podcast. Would you subscribe to Your Highness Media?
This podcast has been a product of Your Highness Media. Each episode is written, produced, and edited by Your Highness Media. Thank you for listening.